This year is moving right along, and Valentine's is going to be here before we know it. And while not everybody decorates for Valentine's Day, I do have some DIYs that can serve for that occasion, but you are also able to use these for more than just that day. Plus, I have something for you. Hey there, my name is Yami. I am your Latina next door. Welcome back to Mi Casa, where I share high-end home decor and DIYs on a budget, as well as extreme before and after room transformations. If that's something you'd enjoy, please make sure to subscribe so that you too can become part of the familia. Now, I don't know about you, but the older I get, the less I want little knickknacks of little crafts specific to certain days of the year around my home, with the exception of Christmas. So when I came up with the ideas for this video, I decided to either create something that's neutral that can work a little bit longer and perhaps be incorporated in your everyday decor, or create something that can be used throughout the entire spring season with the interchanging of a few things. Plus, I wanted to incorporate something a little bit more useful for you all, and you'll see what I'm talking about in just a few minutes. Let's get started. So for this first DIY, I'm going to recreate this leafy heart wreath that I saw over at Grandin Road for $99. We're going to make a dupe out of it, and you're going to see how easy it is. I love this idea because it was nice and green. It wasn't like in your face Valentine's, and you can have this displayed on your door or wherever else you want to for a lot longer than Valentine's Day. So what I did was I got some foam board because for some reason I couldn't find any of those wire wreaths in the heart shape over at Dollar Tree. So I just used what I had on hand. I had this wooden cutout of a heart, and all I did was take some Dollar Tree foam, again, that I already had, and I traced it around to create my very own wreath form. I needed the wreath form to be about 1.5 to 2 inches wide. So what you see me doing here is just measuring it out evenly all the way around so that I can create an outer layer of the heart so I can cut it out. Next, I use a box cutter to cut out the form. I get a lot of questions about this box cutter whenever I share it, and I do have it linked below under the tools I frequently use. Now, of course, this is completely unnecessary if you do have one of those wire wreaths in the shape of a heart. But here I am just using what I have on hand, and it is perfectly doable with some foam. The next thing I wanted to do was reinforce this wreath because after all it was just foam. So I took some jute string and began to wrap it around the entire form. Not only did it give it more strength, but also it covered up the foam so that it didn't look like it was just a piece of foam. After the wreath form was covered, I got some of these eucalyptus bushes that you can get at Walmart for under $1. Now, you can also get these little bunches that are larger and a little bit lighter in color, also from Walmart. Because I like the contrasting look of both, I'm going to use both of these leaves for this wreath. And so, of course, the first thing you want to do is take these greenery bushes apart one by one, and I just took my wire cutters and cut them individually. Then it was a matter of just adhering each one of these one by one. I began facing them downward like this towards the bottom peak of the heart. And then when I came down to the other right side, I did the same thing and pointed it down to that side. I made sure to try and cover as much of the wreath as possible in order to make the greenery nice and full, and I alternated the colors as I adhered them on. Now the fullness of the wreath will depend on you. However, I made this entire wreath for under $20. And I think it turned out more full than the original. Once the wreath was completed, I just took some ribbon and adhered it with some hot glue to the back. You can use any kind of ribbon you want for this. Once the ribbon was secure, it was ready to hang. And for the next DIY, we're going to be using this little heart form. You can get these at Dollar Tree. And I'm also going to remove the jute twine that it had. Next, I'm just going to take some white chalk paint that I had on hand and paint the entire thing white. Now you can stain it or you can paint it a different color. The next thing you want is a frame. You can use an old art frame that you have on hand. You can use dowels and make yourself a frame. You can use poplar boards. These are actually the innards of a frame that I used to have. This was the inside carcass of it, and I kept it because I figured I can create something from it. Then I'm taking all of my florals that I have that are just lying around in single little stems, as you can see, because I've pretty much used them up, and I am just going to use this to create a beautiful framed floral wreath. I'm going to make sure and cut down most of the stem that I can, and then I'm just going to hot glue each of these flowers onto the frame. And I'm just going to focus on two corners, the bottom right and the top left. Now, because I didn't have a ton of the same flowers, I tried to put similar flowers on either end and then added other similar ones, or at least in the same color scheme, as I went. That way everything looks like it's supposed to be together. Now I could have stained or covered this frame in burlap or ribbon. However, I personally liked the way it looked this way, so I went ahead and left it. Now once the floral portion was done, I began to string some wooden beads with some baker's twine. Then I worked the baker's twine through the original holes on the heart form. I secured them on the back with some hot glue. Then I attached that string of beads to the frame with a little bit more baker's twine. This way you can remove the heart and add any other shaped plaque for the rest of the season. Now you can add any kind of wording to this heart. Here are some examples. However, for now I just kept it blank. Alright, this couldn't be the start of a new year without me trying to do some more painting. And I found these canvases at the Dollar Tree Plus section. You get 3 of them for $5, and I figured while I was practicing my painting, might as well get some inexpensive canvases to practice on. So I went ahead and purchased this. And I'll be using the large one for this. Now, because I'm just using what I have, I decided to go ahead and give this one full coat of white chalk paint. That way I had a nice base layer on the canvas. Next, I took a heart-shaped doily and I traced out the shape of a heart towards the upper center of the canvas frame. And then I began to add some washi tape around the entire perimeter on the inside of that heart. Now this was inspired by a piece by a watercolor artist here on YouTube. I saw her do something with watercolors like this and I just had to try it out for myself. I thought it was beautiful. I'll link to that video below if you guys want to check it out. I didn't need to fill the entire heart with tape, but just enough that if I went over it with some of my paint that it wouldn't get on that portion of the canvas. And I just began freehanding some flowers. Again, I'm just using what I have on hand. These are cheap crafting acrylics that I have in my cabinet, and I just pull out whatever colors I have and just make them work for this. The key is to add a ton of flowers around that heart. I had 3 different colors that I worked with: a light peach, a light pink, and a fuchsia color. I would let them dry and then I'd come back and add a little bit more dimension by mixing the colors a little bit or lightening them and then adding them as layers on top. I am no artist by any means. However, I do like to see what other people do and try to basically emulate the same type of techniques in my own way. Once I got tired of painting flowers or needed them to dry a little bit, I would come in with some green and add little stems or leaves throughout. It's pretty amazing to see something like this come to life right before your eyes. What started as a simple sketch of a heart and a little bit of tape ends up being something that you can really admire and are proud of. Once it was completely dry, I removed all of the tape of the inside of the heart. Once I removed the tape, I erased any leftover pencil marks that I had left on the canvas when I traced out the heart. And my apologies for my head. I had no idea it was in front of the camera. Now I have something really fun in relation to this painting, but first let's see how this turned out. So in creating this piece, I didn't want it to just benefit me. Obviously, I get to enjoy it because it is in my home, but I thought what great way to share the love in giving it to you all for free. And this is what I mean. I have made a digital copy of these, one that you can print out and frame and put in your home, which is super easy to do. All you have to do is print. Or you can create your very own Valentine's card with them. I have 2 separate files, one for the artwork and one for this card already ready for you to go and print. and they're available on my website. Simply go to my homepage, then click at the top menu where you see this right here. It will take you to this page where you enter your email and your name, and you'll get an automatic email from me with the special link to my private library, and you'll be able to download these and print these off, as well as anything that I have previously created for free. You can definitely use for your personal use. So for this last DIY, we're going to be doing something neutral. Right now, Hobby Lobby has a lot of discounts on their home accents, and I got this nice size frame for only $3. I'm also going to be using these molds from Iron Orchid Designs. This is the second time that I'm going to be using these types of molds along with air clay. And so basically you just want to take a little bit of your air dry clay and start working it and kind of massaging it in between your hands so that it can get nice and soft. Then you want to sprinkle some cornstarch inside the mold so that the clay does not stick. And then you want to press your clay inside. You're going to want to press it down firmly, and then you're going to remove the excess off the edges and the back. I could not find my little spatula that I was using last time, so I used my Cricut spatula for this. After you remove the excess, you want to peel back your mold, and I have found that peeling it back while I remove the clay onto a surface is the best way for me to remove them. For this, I created a key and a little keyhole. I let the clay dry for 24 hours, and then it was on to the next step. I adhered it on to the center of the plaque that I had purchased from Hobby Lobby. And then once it dried, I used some of DIY paint to paint the entire thing. Now I've been using this sandy blonde for quite a bit of projects, and I still have a ton left. I use this paint for my cloche stands for my winter decor, and also these bookends that I created from old banisters. If you have not seen those videos, I'll link to them in the description box below. And while this may not seem like a Valentine's Day color, or it might seem like I'm using the same color over and over again, this is a way to tie in different pieces for different occasions or seasons or events and still make it work with your current decor. Now while the plaque dried, I took some Rub and Buff and I applied it all over the little key, and then of course the little keyhole that was on the plaque. Then I took some of DIY Paint's clear wax and began to apply it all over the plaque. This brings out the color and seals it. And of course, while it was still tacky, I used my Decrepit Dust. You guys know I've been using this on a lot of my DIYs, and I'm still over the moon at how it works. If you haven't seen how I use this and what it can really do to a piece, make sure to check out the video with the bookends. I wanted it to look a little bit aged, so I added some white wax around the little keyhole and then brushed off the excess. Then I used my little doily again to trace another heart. I had these mini foam roses from Dollar Tree, and I began to adhere them one by one with some hot glue. And then finally I adhered the little key to the bottom right hand corner. And if I didn't mention it, I did use wood glue for both the little key and the keyhole. I also distressed the outer edges with a little bit of wax to make it look like it had been aged and sitting there for a little bit. I touched up any areas that needed to be touched up, and that was it for this DIY. Well, that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to give this video a like. It really does help my channel out. And if you would, let me know in the comments below which one of these was your favorite. Don't forget, the Look for Less challenge is next week. You still have one more week to get your projects completed. I hope you're doing well, and I will see you all next week with another home decor and DIY video. Until then, adios!